Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving deep into the quiet, kinda hidden world of your pre-sleep mind. You know the feeling, right? You hit the pillow, and suddenly your brain decides it's time to become a full-blown Hollywood studio. Well, we're going to unpack exactly what's happening up there during those late-night hours.
So think about it for a second. Have you ever found yourself literally directing an elaborate mental movie right before drifting off? And of course, you're playing the lead role. Maybe you're giving this incredibly powerful speech that just leaves the whole room completely speechless. Or maybe you're finally delivering that perfect, crushing comeback to someone who wronged you like 3 years ago. You run the scene, you tweak the dialogue, you rerun it. It's an incredibly common experience, but why exactly do we do it?
Picture the scene. You're lying in bed, the lights are off, and your physical environment is just as dark and quiet as it gets. Yet, in stark contrast, your mind is incredibly loud. While your body rests, inside your head there's this vivid, cinematic universe playing out. It's packed with drama, success, arguments, and conversations that literally never took place. And the crazy part? The emotions, the anger, the anxiety, the excitement, they all feel entirely real to your body.
All right, Chapter 1, Lights Out, Mind On.
Now, these highly detailed mental simulations usually fall into specific, really recognizable patterns. Psychologists call this mental simulation. The first one, arguments. You know, where you explain yourself perfectly or find that ultimate comeback. The second is future success, imagining yourself finally getting the respect, love, or recognition you totally deserve. And the third is worst-case scenarios. This is where your brain starts rehearsing for things going wrong, failures, or grief that haven't even happened yet. Your brain is essentially running these simulations to process social interactions, treating them almost like real experiences. I mean, your heart rate and your emotions are actively responding to this stuff.
Moving right along to Chapter 2, the hypnagogic state.
So, the crucial point here is that this isn't just random daydreaming. It's actually a sophisticated behavior known clinically as paracosmic thinking. Basically, when you're lying in bed inventing a universe where you save your best friend or finally get that one-sided crush to fall for you, you are engaging in paracosmic thinking. You're crafting these elaborate, self-directed mental narratives. But why does this happen specifically right before we sleep?
Well, this behavior illustrates a massive shift happening in your brain. Think about it. During the day, your rational brain is in charge. It's highly edited, it's logical, and honestly, it frequently suppresses your emotions just so you can function in society. You bite your tongue, you ignore the awkwardness, and you just move on. But your emotional pre-sleep brain? That side is totally unfiltered. It is deeply narrative-driven, and it desperately wants to process all those emotions you just pushed aside all day.
And this shift occurs during a biological phase called hypnagogia. It's that brief, kind of magical, transitional window right before you fall asleep. During hypnagogia, the rational, logical part of your brain finally starts going quiet. And because those daytime filters are down, everything you push down during the day, you know, the argument you let go, the compliment you never got, it finally rises up and absolutely demands your attention.
Which brings us to Chapter 3, Closing the Open Tabs.
So, this actually explains why you can replay an awkward conversation from literally 5 years ago with perfect clarity, but you completely forget what you had for lunch 3 days ago. It's called the Zeigarnik effect. Thanks to this psychological tendency, your brain basically hates unfinished business. It treats an awkward interaction, a one-sided crush, or just an unspoken thought like an open internet tab running in the background, and your brain desperately wants to close that tab. So what does it do? It creates a scenario to finish the story.
And here's how your brain actively hacks its own reward system to close that tab. Step 1. Daily reality fails to provide an ending or a resolution. Step 2. Your mind steps in and crafts the perfect, victorious scenario. And Step 3. Your brain gets a dopamine preview. You see, your brain doesn't just release dopamine when you get a reward, it releases it when you anticipate one. So for a few minutes, you get to feel the relief, the victory, or the love you wanted. The catch, of course, is that imaginary rewards are easy, while real-life resolutions require a lot of hard, messy work.
Let's dive into Chapter 4, Rehearsing Your True Identity.
I absolutely love this quote because it grounds this whole phenomenon in hard science. Jerome Singer, he was a prominent psychologist at Yale who spent decades researching mental imagery. He found that people who engage in these positive, constructive fantasies actually score higher on emotional regulation and creative problem solving. So, running these elaborate narratives, it's not a sign that you can't handle reality. No way. It's actually evidence of a highly sophisticated inner life. You are, quite literally, editing the drafts of your identity.
And this is absolutely crucial to remember. The people who imagine the most aren't necessarily the weirdest.
They're very often the ones carrying the most unspoken emotions. When reality fails to give you the connection, the feeling of being chosen, the appreciation, or even the apology you desperately deserve, your mind steps in. It builds this highly active, detailed world just to give you the emotions that reality forgot to provide.
But, what about the darker scenarios? Sometimes we imagine arguments we lose, breakups, or just sad, quiet scenes of grief. While this can feel really distressing, it's actually your nervous system doing exactly what it needs to do. Sleep researchers point out that emotional memory consolidation happens heavily during REM sleep. So rehearsing these worst-case outcomes during hypnagogia, it's essentially a preparation phase. Your mind is just surfacing the heavy emotions it needs to process so you can eventually become unstuck. There's also a fascinating, kind of hidden social dimension to all of this. Very often, the people with the most sprawling, intensely detailed internal worlds grew up in environments where their emotional reality wasn't fully acknowledged. If you couldn't safely express what you felt at the dinner table, well, you expressed it in your head, in the dark, right before sleep. Over time, that internal space became incredibly developed. Your imagination wasn't just an escape from life, it was a safe, underground continuation of it.
And finally, Chapter 5, Bridging the Reality Gap.
Let's just take a second to appreciate the comedic absurdity of this. I mean, in your mind, your production value is absolutely incredible. You are the director, the star, and the scriptwriter of a cinematic masterpiece. You casually reveal information with perfect precision and timing. You deliver lines that your actual, physical mouth could never in a million years deliver with such flawless execution. The character you've written for yourself, genuinely incredible.
And that brings us to perhaps the most revelatory truth of this whole explainer. Why can't the real version of you be a little more like that internal hero? Well, it's because in modern life, we're constantly editing ourselves, managing how we come across, and basically performing for others. But that confident, unfiltered person starring in those pre-sleep scenarios, they aren't fictional. That is the real you. It's you without the interference, without the fear, and without all those exhausting social filters.
So the challenge here is closing that gap. When you realize just how emotionally coherent and vivid your inner world is, you can actually start experimenting with bringing it outward. It means taking small, imperfect steps to let that pre-sleep version of yourself step into the actual daylight. Sure, it's going to be messy. It'll be awkward for sure. And no, it won't have the cinematic timing of your imagination, but it will be real. And real actions compound. They create growth in a way that mental simulations simply cannot.
Ultimately, those fake scenarios you run every single night, they're a map. They show you with remarkable clarity exactly what you want, who you want to connect with, and who you wish you were allowed to be. So the next time the lights go out and that mental movie starts playing, pay close attention to the deep want underneath it all, and then ask yourself the only question that truly matters. Are you ever going to try to live inside that map?